Welcome to Power Up Your Practice, the go-to podcast for law firm owners and managing attorneys working on the business, not in it. I'm Ruby Powers, your guide into the heart of law practice management, bringing your insights from leading legal minds, trailblazing attorneys, and expert guests who provide practical perspectives on running your firm more effectively and efficiently. And before we dive in, I'm thrilled to announce that my latest book, Power Up Your Practice, is out and available on Amazon. It's packed with actionable advice for growing a successful law firm. Be sure to grab your copy today. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive tips and resources. And if you're enjoying this podcast, we love your reviews. They help us reach more attorneys like you who are striving to build the practice of their dreams. Prepare to open your mind, be inspired, and power up your practice to the next level. Hey everyone, this is Ruby Powers. Really excited to have our guest today, Manny Griffiths. He is the co-founder and CEO at HONA. And actually, we just realized that we've bumped into each other multiple times this year at legal tech conferences, including Lex for Filevine in Utah, ClioCon in Austin, and also the ALA Tech Summit that I was the chair of in Dallas in September. So and maybe we saw each other at ABA Tech Show. I don't know if you were there earlier in the year.
We're on the road a lot, but
Yeah.
I wasn't at ABA, but I will be there this next year. It's cold in February in Chicago, so
That is true. So yes. Okay. So I've seen you at 3 of the 4 legal tech conferences that I've gone to this year. So, well, Manny, tell us a little bit about yourself, and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. So my name is Manny Griffiths. Like you mentioned, I'm co-founder and CEO of HONA. I've been in the legal tech sphere for 8 years. But before that, I wanted to be a lawyer. And so I was studying for the LSAT. I put in like 100 hours of studying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I just heard they got rid of the logic games on the LSAT, which would have made it way easier for me. I put in all this time, and then I worked at a legal tech company to kind of learn about the legal industry. And then I said, I'm just going to stick around here. So I never ended up going, but I might later in life. We'll see.
Okay. Now that those games aren't on there anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, they've made it easier. Well, I mean, that's for the LSAT, but like even to become an attorney, this unified bar exam is really opening up doors for people to get licensed at different states have different requirements. And I don't know, it's like a whole nother world. I've just been realizing the last couple of years. Well, so for those who don't know, what is HONA? What does it do?
Yeah. HONA is a client engagement software. So we are solving the number one bar complaint, which is client communication. So we help automate client communication and updates into a really easy to log into portal for clients so that they know exactly what's happening with their case. And they, feel like they know their lawyer a little bit better and learn what's happening in the background.
Okay. And just before we go into more, like what are some of the case management softwares that HONA can integrate with?
Yeah, we have 14 integrations. So most of them, if they're cloud-based, we probably integrate. So
wow.
You mentioned Clio and Filevine, in my case, Smokeball,
so pretty much if it's a case management software, it sounds like you probably integrate with them.
Yep.
Wow. Yep. But some of them do have like different automations and portals and stuff like that. So like why would you need HONA on top of a case management software for the person who's like, why do I need more?
Yeah, I think if you've ever used a portal for like a medical, if you've ever had like a doctor portal, they're oftentimes they're not user-friendly at all. So, you have to put in your email and your password, and then you forget your password. So you send an email and then you get in and it's not very robust. Yeah. Ours is just to the nines. It like has so much functionality. It's so much better than what a case management software's portal provides. No dissing the case management portal. They're good tools, but like ours just does so much more. It's probably 10% of what we do. So
I think this is that whole debate argument of like, do you get something that does everything? Can it do everything well? Or do you get a program that like just double down and is like awesome at that thing? that one thing. And I think the fact that, there's maybe like 6 major companies that own the most of the case management software programs out there, and there's like a lot of consolidation happening. I don't know. I wonder how it's all going to shake out when they're trying to be have everything in one. But I think there's a lot of absorbing happening from different programs. So anyway, that's related, but side note. So what did you get into? You mentioned, we were talking earlier about how you've, as a consumer, had interactions with law firms, and just sort of what were some of your experiences? And I don't know if it had anything to do with why you wanted to co-found HONA.
Yeah, I really had actually 3 experiences as a consumer using a law firm and not having great communication or client experience that led to me wanting to do this.
Okay.
So the first one was me and my buddy were starting a nonprofit, the American Legacy Project, and we had to set up the legal entity. And so I contracted I used a law firm for this, and just never knew what was happening. I didn't know what was the process of getting it done. I didn't know if it was approved. I didn't know what was next. So that was frustrating. And then the second one was a lot more emotional for me. It was, my wife was in a car accident, and it wasn't super serious, but we, had to go through the process of a personal injury case. And I experienced those same challenges. Didn't know what was happening, didn't receive communication, didn't understand what was going on in the background. And so I was frustrated. And then the third one, which you'd probably resonate with the most, was one of my really close friends and roommate, Jovan, was an immigrant, and he's been undergoing, the immigration process into the U.S. He's waiting on his interview right now. But I lived with him for a year and saw all of the troubles that he was having with work visas, and he was about to get married and stuff with green cards and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, this is such a tough situation for him. So kind of those 3 things, I was like, I know there can be a better way to communicate with clients.
It sort of reminds me of something I remember Jack Newton mentioned at an ABA Tech show a couple years ago, like what other industries are doing. And it was the Domino's Pizza Tracker. And it was like knowing where you are in the process. And it just gives you a lot of satisfaction of knowing, like, is your pizza being made? And is Susie out to drive my pizza to my house right now? And where are they? Like, they've even upped that app, like, what street they're on. It's like crazy. But like, and the IRS has something like that too. Like one time I was waiting for a refund, and it's like, where's my check or something?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow.
They had like a refund tracker, I think.
That's great, because I get so annoyed with the IRS because they don't do email yet. I hear that's coming. Everything's a letter, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Or an hour and 20-minute phone call to.
Yeah. Hiring 80,000 employees is necessary that they're doing right now.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started. Yeah, wouldn't that be great if there was like a lot more innovation? Anyway.
But just to comment on what you were saying, Ruby, like that's kind of what part of what we're doing is like bringing the technology that Fortune 100 companies have, and we're bringing that to small businesses, in particular law firms, because they are so sophisticated with how they communicate with consumers. And like, we're doing that for small law firms. So
like, I know it'd be ideal if someone hired, gets HONA, but like, what are some of the things that people can do to improve the client engagement or communication experience? Because you said you're solving that problem where lawyers get in trouble. And we've heard that time and time again, with the state bar. And that's interesting, because you're helping solve that problem. And in my law practice management, coaching, podcasting, writing, like I'm trying to help solve that problem too, because if we had more, better systems and efficiency and boundaries and guidelines, we probably people wouldn't get in trouble. And they would, everything would be a happy win-win situation.
Totally. I think there's kind of 3 things, and like, this is nothing to do with HONA. I think the mode of communication is really important. The second thing is the frequency. And then the third thing is the content. So the mode, make sure you're using all the forms of communication that are relevant today. So a lot of law firms still primarily communicate via email. The problem with that is that only 1/5 of emails from professional service providers are read by the client.
Whoa.
So it's super low, and people just, a lot of firms, like at the start of a matter, they'll email them like
Yeah.
a explanation of what's happening, and nobody ever reads it. And so I think the mode is really important. Don't just use email. Email is, it's not dying. It's never going to die, but it's just less and less used.
So like, would you suggest like that same long email should probably go via text and I don't know, maybe be in a video format too or something?
Yes. So text is absolutely necessary. So on the flip side, 1 in 5 emails are read from professional service providers. 98% of text messages are opened. And so at least people are getting to them and looking at them. And so I would suggest text messaging as like a bare minimum along with email. And then video content, that was the third thing. So mode, frequency, and content. So the content piece, like having video content is just a must these days. Like short form video is taking over social media and like how we interact with our devices. And so videos that are 30 to 60 seconds long that explain what happens go a really, really long way. And so if you can use those, you can communicate, put those in emails and text messages and phone calls, that is huge.
Like even like a video that says, thanks for joining and thanks for hiring Powers Law Group. We're excited to have you on this journey. Or you do stuff like, you encourage people, firms to do that type of thing?
100%. And don't make it formal, because people don't want formal. They're used to like seeing people in their car explain
In their car.
2024 election. Like people respond to that.
Yeah.
So like when it's formal, people turn off. Like if you hire a crew to come into your office and film you with your mahogany bookshelves in the background, you're going to get pretty low like viewership. It's just how it is these days. So like, and that's nice for law firms. Like use your phone. It's
right.
Like buy a tripod and a ring light like everyone else is doing, because it's huge.
Right. So, you can have your own studio for like less than $100 pretty much.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another comment, I could talk about video forever, but another comment on this is like the tools for editing are so good these days. So I'll tell you an example, Ruby. At ClioCon, some guy comes up to our booth and he's got one of those oscillating phone holders.
Yeah.
Cool too. But he comes up and he's like, oh, what's HONA? And he's filming me. And he films this video that's 30 seconds. He puts it in an AI editing software called CapCut.
Oh,
and it automatically produced captions of everything we were saying and made it like exciting with emojis. And like within 3 minutes, I put this video on our social media. You can check it out if you go to our Instagram. But like it edited it like that. And it's like something that we use and that helps market our product. It's crazy.
There's like bead Capta, there's Capta, I don't know, like you could just there's so many different programs out there and they can do so many things, like from splicing a short video out of like a longer one, like even how we do the podcast, you could make like a short video out of it, or we do webinars for our law firm that are maybe 15 minutes long, and you could splice that into like a shorter clip as well. And then like you said, like adding maybe some music or the caption, or making it more social media ready with the copy and jazzing it all up. There's so many new programs. I feel a little overwhelmed by them, but it's nice to know that like you don't have to be super talented in it, or it's not like a full-time job necessarily. Law firms can do a lot with less. I think it's exciting times.
Totally. Yeah. The crazy thing to me is how much it's viewed. Like I look at some of these attorneys like on YouTube, Attorney Tom, like how much their content is viewed. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but like it's kind of shocking, like that a consumer wants to learn about what happened in this motor vehicle accident case. Like it's hundreds of thousands of people watch that. And so I think that sometimes law firms will think, oh, they're not going to watch this. They will. They want to. And it's like crazy, but it helps. And the cool thing is too, sorry, I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I think I get passionate about this, is if you send someone a video explaining what's happening,
Uh-huh.
It's so much better than calling them or emailing them because they'll watch it more than once. And so if you tell someone over the phone, they forget it, halfway through the day. But if you're like in an immigration case and like you'll go back and watch that a few times and you'll actually learn. And so video content is just so big for firms.
I agree with you. We do a lot of video and then we repurpose it for like YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram and Facebook and everything. But one thing I realized we're not doing is more of like what we're talking about here is like using it for the client journey. Like we're usually using it more for attracting new potential clients. There's been times where, like, let's say a mandamus, like a federal lawsuit to speed up your case. Someone's like asking, I know I talked to them before, and I'm like, okay, I take the YouTube video I did and I say, watch this and then let's talk, because I'm like, this is going to answer most of the questions,
Yes.
And I've just been thinking about, like, I think sometimes, and maybe other listeners have the same issue, we're creating so much great content for the prospective client, but we're not repurposing it for our existing clients. And I think sometimes my legal team doesn't realize all the stuff my marketing team's doing. One hand is no, the other hand. And I'm like, hey, you guys, we have a lot of great stuff. Like we've been doing video on YouTube for I think 11 or 13 years. And we have a lot of, and right now we're doing it in English and Spanish every week on different topics. So
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Both languages. That's cool.
Yeah.
So can I make a comment on that too?
Yeah.
It's just interesting at Lex, the conference that we were both at. I talked to a firm. So the previous Lex was 18 months before. They had an 18-month gap. And I talked to a firm and they were at like $1 million in revenue. And then the next time I talked to them at the most recent Lex in September, they were at 5 million in revenue.
Wow.
And I was like, how did you do that? And he said, we focused on the client journey, which is what you just mentioned. And I was like, tell me more. And he said, almost similar, really similar to what you just said. He said, we were only focusing on intake and conversion, number of leads and converting on those leads. He said, one of the biggest things we've done is focus on, middle of the case communication. And we've increased our referrals so much because people really like working with us. And then the other part of the client journey is post-client communication. So it's like keeping in touch with them after. And, just buying like MailChimp and sending emails about community events you're doing, or sending quarterly wins or whatever, and keeping in touch helps bring in those referrals too. So I think so much happens, like so many people just focus on that initial getting.
Yeah.
Exactly. But there's so much more you can do. And it's really the best way to grow. So
I completely agree with you. And I think that's sort of like maybe the less sexy place, because you're like, oh, I already got them, I need to get new business. But, you have to cultivate a great experience for your clients, and they'll reward you with recommending you. In fact, so my firm's turning 15 this month, and I know. I'm not old at all. I started it when I was 10. Just kidding.
Exactly.
Graduated law school when I was 10, right? But one thing I started about 2 or 3 years into the firm was a newsletter. And honestly, this summer, I decided to do an experiment and take the firm off of PPC and see what would happen. I was so scared, honestly, to do that. Because I've been addicted to paying the ads for almost 11, 13 years. And I took them off and I didn't see a difference in our practice. I didn't. And I know maybe different practice areas are different. And I think the reason why I took us off was because I couldn't really truly see the return on investment. And I wanted to clean up our CRM connections and automations. But one thing that is like our secret, it's boring, but it's true, is just cultivating the existing clientele, the people who've reached out to us, keeping them in the fold, the ones who are existing clients, keeping them educated what's going on, and former clients. and letting them, be top of mind with a newsletter in English and Spanish every other week. And even if they don't read it, I think the headline, they see that, and, they can forward it to a friend. It's sort of like they remember that we exist. And, 15 years of clients, prospective clients, it starts to add up, and then it's very exponential, your reach. So I agree with you. And I think this is sort of a good call to action for those listening, is like, what is your client experience like? And do some deep reflection. Are we so focused on the acquisition that we sort of forget about the after party of what happens when they actually hire us, which is really when the bulk of what we were doing for them is being done. And you're right. I think that post, how often do people keep them in the fold, have them added to a newsletter, or send them a holiday card, or, stay in touch with their super referrals. Those are all really good advice.
I love that. I love the newsletter. I love sending newsletters. I went to a conference recently, Great Legal Marketing, and that was a huge focus and topic there. I think birthday text messages are huge too. It's such a simple thing, but even after your client's case, that's something that HONA, that we've incorporated, is after the case, you can keep sending them little birthday texts and videos automatically. I think HONA, really, our goal is all this stuff we're talking about. HONA is just the medium to do it and make it easier and better. And so it's automating that, putting it in a workflow so that you're not thinking about it. It just happens. But
oh, great. Okay, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, in your world, that's really fascinating that you didn't have to, you turned off PPC. I think that in immigration, referrals are if you're a personal injury firm,
that's a different story.
How often do you know someone that gets in a wreck or slips and falls on a property? It's just pretty rare, but referrals are such a legitimate source of leads, because they all have family and friends that want it, and they'll, if you're giving them a good client experience, then they will flock to you. So
yeah, we have these pockets around the country that one happy client told all their friends and family, or their church, or their whatever. And I'm oh yeah, we've got this pocket in Vermont, and this one in Dallas, and it's just so funny. It's sort of funny. Oh yeah, we know so-and-so who knows so-and-so and so-and-so. And then if you think about it, generally in family-based immigration, you can only help someone so many times, right? You get their green card, you remove a condition, you get them a citizenship, you petition for their parent or something like that. So maybe 4 times, right? Maybe. Right. But then, there's their family and their friends. And so it can really expand as well. But yeah, and I like what you were saying about you give the platform to make it easy to engage and give that client, because you could, I joke, duct tape a whole bunch of different programs together. You could probably put it with, a little bit of a CRM and a little bit of a newsletter app, like a MailChimp. And then you could make some videos, and you can have some, link to a YouTube, and you could try to do some automations, but it would probably take a lot of effort to piece those different journeys together. And then if it doesn't integrate with your case management software, depending on where you're at with that. So I think the one big takeaway is just really think, what is your client journey? Have you ever tried to be a client in your own firm? What is the experience like? And a friend of mine the other day gave me a call, and she's like, I'd like to give you feedback about your firm, because and I was like, oh no, and I was like, I don't have the bandwidth for this today, I'm thinking, but I was like, I took the call and I listened to her. But I do think that a lot of us lawyers get so bogged down with all the responsibility, and if we're also the law firm owner or managing attorney or partner or whatever we are, and then we're just we might be just be happy with the fact we give you what we do, but really, I think the whole client experience is, there's a lot more competition in the space. There's a lot more, what do you call it, educated clients. This whole DIY They have so much access to information. Like Richard Susskind in The Future of Professions talks a lot, and Daniel Susskind as well, co-author, say a lot about like we don't have monopoly on information and knowledge like we used to. And so the game is changing in that space.
Yeah, it's so easy to leave. It really is, and to go somewhere else because it's just that people are so accessible, and people expect so much more, I think, in these days as well. Like what we were talking about earlier with the Domino's Pizza Tracker and Amazon packages, like the bar has been raised because the big companies have had such good technology, and so people just expect, even if it's not a substantive update, they want to know, they would just want to hear from you. So like one of the things in our tool is like, we call it a drip text. Like if there's a period of time that, months and months that nothing really happens, we have our firm set up, every 7 to 10 days. Hey, nothing's happened, but we'll be in touch soon about what's going on next. And people love that.
I joke that's like the no status update.
Yes. Yes.
Like there's not, it's, and what some people might not know, like, I don't know other areas of practice, but in immigration, we have this one thing that's taking 3.5 years to make a decision. I have asylum cases. That's what I was doing those mandamuses for. I filed in 9 years ago. 9 years ago. So, I mean, I'm sure the client gets upset. Like, well, what's going on? Like, there's absolutely nothing going on. Like your only option is to mandamus if you want to.
Right.
We did shoot a whole bunch of newsletters and videos to them, and we've been trying to get a whole bunch of mandamuses filed. But I think there's a lot of value to that because I can see both sides. I can see from the lawyer perspective, well, what is there to say other than there's nothing to say? But then the client's perspective, it's better to know that there's nothing going on, and I can trust that my attorney is giving me the heads up that like nothing's going on, as opposed to like, because they're going to be worrying, oh, what if something happened and my attorney is too lazy or unorganized to even tell me, or I missed this deadline, or I did this or did that. Yeah.
Well, the other interesting thing with immigration is that like if there's an administration change and a policy change, it directly affects the immigrants and how long, they have in the process. And so like you have to be really good about communicating that as well, because I think they're, after a couple of years in the process, they're trained to know that like if someone changes, there's new president, there's new, like something's going to change. So you have to keep them apprised as to what's going on. And it's an interesting aspect to it.
Honestly, that was the reason why we leveraged the newsletter so much, because I didn't have a really easy way to just pull all the records and say, this person has this type of case, this person has this type of case. I need to tell them this, I need to tell them this. It was just more of like a survival mechanism, like, because we were getting a huge change every Friday night when we were trying to clock out, and we were like trying to find a way to under a certain administration. And this newsletter was a way to be like, hey, if this seems like it relates to you, give us a call, or this is what's going on. And we were trying to like over communicate in that respect, and get that information out. But so what's like more of an example, like if someone were to use like a best practice to using HONA or something they were to build out. So you're saying, okay, send them an email, but also send them a text that has like a link to a video. And then like, what are some of the other things that you suggest a part of that along that journey, besides those like no status type of text or videos or something like that?
Yeah. And I think you can do the email and text thing without even using HONA. I think that's just a good practice. So HONA, what we do is like when someone implements the tool, we go through their case manager or their case management software, and we set up automations based on triggers. So whether that's like a stage or a phase in your case management software, or like you maybe have a task list of like 7 tasks you have to do every case. And what we say is like, if you complete this task or move this phase or a combination of these, we are going to send this text message. And the client gets the text message, they click a link, and it goes right into like a branded portal with like the law firm's logo and like a description of what's happening and a video. So like that's how ours works. And then it just like, and you know, you can set up all these different automations so that they're constantly being fed information and educational materials on what happens in their specific case type. And we do it in different languages for immigration firms. So if you have primarily Spanish speakers, you can change the whole setup to be in Spanish or whatever. One thing I think that's just a tip and a trick, you don't need to use HONA for this, but there's a program called Loom.
Oh, yeah.
Have you used it?
Yeah, actually, that was actually what made me think about something earlier in our conversation was my SEO guy, about maybe 3 years ago, I don't know how many years ago, he's the one who got me onto that. He would record, we were like trying to find a time to talk, and it was like not happening. So he would just record showing his screen and telling me the answer in Loom and send it to me. And then I was like, damn, this is awesome. And so then like during the pandemic, like we did stuff like that, like we're recording training and things internally. And then sometimes, you know, I know like we're on WhatsApp or like now Google Chat has like an audio feature and there's like different things like that. But sometimes it's easier to send via a note audio than like written. But sometimes we'll like maybe use a Zoom video or a Loom video to send, or we could upload a video on YouTube depending on what it is, and send that link. But what were you going to say?
No, I mean, this is the exact use case. What we see a lot of immigration firms is if there is a policy change, they click a button on their browser. You're always in your browser anyway. It starts recording. You do a really casual 30 to 60 second video and then send that to your clients. And if you do it in HONA, it's cool because you can text it and email right away. And in text message, it actually will give them a preview and then they click it and it goes right in. But the cool thing about it is it's like it's just making a video of like your newsletter. Like you're doing the newsletter, but I think it's a more digestible content, like mode of content. And so people like it. And I think the newsletters are awesome. I keep doing those, but I think Looms are just amazing. Like who doesn't want to see their attorney's face and hear their voice and get the information they need and be able to rewatch it? I think it's just such a good practice.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when we send stuff to clients, it's more like we've already had it on YouTube or something like that. But if you want it to be like a private link, I guess you could, you know, make it private and then only send it to your clients if it's something more specific. But yeah, I think we underutilized. I'm always thinking of better ways to do asynchronous communication and using like audio or video. And I mean, I've definitely seen how people read a lot less these days, which is sort of like, why did I write a 714 page book? I'm not sure but I'm going to put on Audible one day. So
nice. Are you going to read it, Ruby? Are you going to be the voice?
I was planning on it.
Nice.
Yeah. I might get annoyed reading my own work. Like I have a hard time reading my books. Like I already wrote it. I don't want to read it again.
Yeah,
it's already in my head somewhere. You know, it's almost like watching your own video or something.
I'm trying to think how long that would take you to record. Like 700 pages. That's probably 15 hours.
I mean, the good thing is that I'm really glad my editor made the font not too ridiculously small. Like, so, you know, depending on if you need readers or not, I don't need readers to read this right now. So this is awesome.
Okay. But, it's probably 20 or 25 hours. That's my guess.
Oh, is that? Oh my gosh.
That's a lot of time.
Oh, that's going to be like my holiday winter break, I guess. I've already been like Googling it. Like you can get in a closet and make sure there's clothing in there to take up sound, you know, and then you get like, all your recording gear, like I already have podcasting gear anyway. So, and then sound absorbing material anyway, but I digress. I was going off on a tangent there. Okay, so now rapid fire questions. So what is your favorite board game and why?
Okay, how about just favorite? How about card?
Okay,
I love
do that.
poker.
You like poker? Ooh, okay.
Hold'em. I love
Okay.
I love the concept of bluffing and just the aspect of luck, but also that there's skill too. It's so fun.
Well, what you might not have known is that I actually wrote about poker
Oh, nice.
in the book. Let's see, what page is it? It's on page 147. And I talked about how we taught our children how to play poker during the pandemic. And I think it was really good life skills. And just how applicable, learning, the bluffing, statistics, reading people. There's a lot that you can get from it. I mean, I learned a lot from my brother-in-law and my husband playing with them, and I was okay. So what's your favorite? Oh, okay. If you were what's your superhero skill? What's your superhero skill? What's your superpower?
My superpower, I think I have the ability to be direct and just not care. So I don't beat around the bush. I'm not afraid to tell people things. Like
You're in trouble.
Yeah, like if I have someone on my team that I need to give feedback to, I'm not scared to do it. Like I am not scared of having tough conversations, and I'm pretty good at being direct. So
okay, well that's good because I think some people avoid conflict, but then sometimes it might be too direct. But that's good. That's a good skill to have.
Yeah, so I think I probably lean towards being too direct. Sometimes I think it gets me in trouble. What helps you 80% of the time hurts you 20% of the time.
So you're like, I'll take 80%.
Yeah.
Okay, what is a habit that has made you successful?
So you and I, one thing I feel like has helped me is just like sincere notes or like emails or texts. I think I I don't know, I love to just if I appreciate something, I will try to take extra time and go out of my way to send an email thanking someone or a handwritten note or something. I think that has really helped me in life, funny enough. So yeah.
Well, that seems to go in line with the whole like being direct and no fluff, and then also the client experience being important to you, like communication. So it seems like that can go all in the same vein. And actually, it's sort of funny. I was talking to somebody about like how now everybody's using AI a lot, even to write emails and communication. And like, I actually wrote a really nice email to somebody the other day, and I was like, I sort of use AI a little bit to make it a little prettier, but that was really sincere. But like, for me to sit down and write that, it takes like moments of effort, So I hope they appreciated that email.
Well, I think that's going to be like even more important in 5 to 10 years. Like people, like if people can tell you're being sincere and it's coming from your heart and it's not generated by AI, then it goes a long way.
Yeah. Or it was like substantially tweaked with your voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you either reading right now or would like to recommend as a book or something for our listeners?
Oh yeah. Right now I'm reading Good to Great by Jim Collins.
Okay.
Have you read that?
Yeah, it's an oldie and a goodie. I don't think I read the whole thing. I know he has like the hedgehog concept. He's got some of like the right people in the right seats, and he's got a lot of like really big concepts that we get recycled in other books later on and speeches. Yeah.
Kind of a classic, but I love the hedgehog concept. I love I love just like, it's really cool that I'm fascinated by the studies he did, like looking at the same types of companies. Like he looked at Walgreens and CVS and like how Walgreens outperformed CVS, like same essentially company, and how they did that. And yeah, I'm fascinated by it. But the biggest thing for me is the right people. Working with the right people is super important.
Yeah, that is so true. And I think Gino Wickman sort of sort of double down a lot of that whole, getting with the people analyzer and having people want it. I always get that mixed up. Getting the right people in the right seats, and there's like this other one about like roaming in the right direction, stuff like that. Like I actually have a part of that in I think chapter 2 about like all these different expressions, but it's all the gist of it is getting the right people, have the right culture, and like on the same page. And
Yes.
and it's simple, but it's complex because it's simple in theory, but to actually do it and then like to curate it, like because you might have somebody who like does the job majority but doesn't have the right culture, and then you're like, do I get rid of them in the equation, or what do I do with that?
So I love that it teaches that you can't provide motivation. Like if you have to motivate someone, then you have the wrong employee. And so, and it's like a part that I don't love about being in business, which law firms are in business, but you have to let that person go. And it's better for the company and it's better for the individual too. And it talks about that in the book. It's like they're better off doing something else. They need to go find something that they're motivated for. And so that concept is just so important, I think. Anyway, that was huge for me.
No, I completely agree with you. And I mean, that goes also to like, can you teach like, drive, and how do you, I don't think you can necessarily.
No, you can't. I don't think you can.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I get some of these things all mixed up because after a while it seems like there's a lot of the same thing, but it's like in traction, he talks about, they get it? Do they understand the concept of what they're supposed to do? Do they want it? Do they want to do it? And do they have the capacity to do it? Do they have the skill set to do it? And just like a get it, want it capacity to do it. And using the people analyzer to analyze it. But it goes along with the concept from the right people in the right seats from good to great. Yeah.
Totally.
Good business lessons. So anything you want to share before we close up, and any closing thoughts, and also how can people find out more about you and reach out to you?
Yeah, no closing thoughts. Appreciate you having me on. If you want to, I'd love to connect. I'm at a lot of these conferences, so I'd love to connect there. You can email me, manny@hona.com. But the best way to learn is just our website, hona.com. Yes, we got the .com. I don't know how, but hona.com.
What does HONA mean, or where did the word come from?
Yeah, it's actually like an ancient Egyptian word for compass. And so we are kind of guiding clients on their path, their case path. So,
wow, that's deep. I like it. And it was available. So
yeah, exactly. You're lucky.
It's a win. Well, this was really great, Manny. I think, even I was a good reminder in thinking about like how to make sure to really develop and cultivate the client experience and communication, and think like our client's perspective and what would they want and what's missing. And I think we're so busy putting everything together and paying the bills and doing everything, staying on top of the law, that we sort of forget what about the client journey and the client experience, and sharing that story about the firm that, what was that, triple or whatever their revenue in just 18 months, that focusing on that client journey. That's a great testament to the importance of that. Well, it's been great having you. Thanks everyone who's been listening, and we're excited to keep giving you episodes. Definitely follow, share, tell other people about us. The book is out, like we mentioned, Power Up Your Practice, Create the Law Firm and Life You Deserve, on Amazon. And I'll see you at a conference at the next episode. Let's stay in touch. Power Up Your Practice Facebook group in between episodes. We'll talk to you later. Take care.
Thank you.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by administrative, marketing, or other legal tasks? Well, you're not alone. Many lawyers are in the same boat. They're trying to build up their firm, and they're trying to figure out how to get help to do so. So that's where Staffy comes in. So over 90 law firm owners, just like you, have turned to Staffy for help with their legal, administrative, marketing, and client-facing work. Staffy's mission is to help lawyers find balance while growing their firm with bilingual virtual staff and full HR support. And they take the hassle out of the team management and focus on what matters most, your clients and your practice. I've personally benefited from multiple staff support with about 8 virtual assistants over the last few years with my 2 businesses, including my law firm, Powered Law Group. Now schedule a free consultation with Staffy. It's stafi.cc, and you can use the code RUBY, that's REBY, for a $500 off coupon. Thank you for tuning in to the Power Up Your Practice Law Practice Management podcast. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave us a review, tell someone else about us, and I would love to get this podcast shared with others to reach more listeners like you. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive content, tips, and updates straight to your inbox. And exciting news, our book, The Power Up Your Practice, is out and available on Amazon. It's packed with strategies, 25 chapters, to help you elevate your practice and achieve your goals. So join us next week as we dive into more advice and insight on law practice management. We'll see you next time.